What's up? You're listening to the Twosome podcast. I'm Blair Wheeler. DJ Thama is here as well. I'm doing this little intro situation to see how it goes, but today's guest is Scott Stallings, close friend of mine, fitness guru, dad, husband, and obviously three-time PGA Tour winner. We get into a lot of different topics in this episode, including what it's like being a dad on the PGA Tour, how he's juggling the different things that life's throwing at him while he's traveling, and how he's juggling being a dad while it's going on. Fitness, food, and obviously, is it easier for a PGA Tour player to run a marathon or dunk a basketball? We'll find out all of this in this episode of the Twosome podcast. So hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening. What's up? Welcome back to the show. You're listening to the Twosome podcast. I'm your host, Blair Wheeler, with my co-host DJ Thama, and we have a special guest today, three-time PGA Tour winner, Scott Stallings, husband, dad, fitness guru, obviously a golfer. Welcome to the show, man.
I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, of course. So we're going to get right into it. We were kind of talking about it off air. There was a comment made at the Myrtle Beach Classic this weekend from Harry Higgs saying that if he trained for 2 years, he could either dunk a basketball or maybe run a marathon. You just ran a marathon, so what do you think? Dunk a basketball, run a marathon, which is going to be easier for Mr. Higgs?
Dan Rappaport told me he had bet his trainer that by the end of the year, he could dunk a basketball for, and I think it was, I don't know, it was $1,000, I don't know, 500, 10, I don't know what it was. But, and then Dan turned it into, could he run, what do you think Harry has a better chance of doing, dunking a basketball or running a marathon? And I think I would take Harry dunking a basketball before running a marathon. I think Harry could run a marathon. I just don't think Harry would want to run a marathon.
He would want to run a marathon, dude.
No, that's something that is not on my bucket list by any means, but you just ran one. Yeah. So give us like a little background on your mindset going into that and the training aspect of, like, you know, obviously you said dunking a basketball for Harry, but what is that main difference going to consist of to get in that level?
Yeah, I think, I had shoulder surgery in June, had elbow surgery in November. And I think once I had the elbow, I think it would really put things in perspective of, like, man, I'm really like not super close to playing on tour again. And then there was a lot of time that came into, like, just being patient and kind of letting that to kind of rebuild this thing where your ulnar nerve kind of slides in right inside the kind of funny bone of your elbow. And it was more just like, man, we got to give it some time. You can't, start swinging. You can't really do a bunch of lifting. I was like, man, I got to find something to do. And a buddy of mine gave me Steve Magnus's book, Do Hard Things. And a guy told me, he said, read the first chapter. Every time Steve references himself about sort of a kind of a weird injury he had when he was running. And he said, put yourself in that, just imagine yourself being in that fairway bunker at the Players, and how, now you're, 14 months away from that. And, you still hadn't played it on tour again, and, freak injuries happen. And I woke up the next day and I told my wife I was going to run the Boston Marathon. Didn't really know what all that looked into and how the process of what all that was. Thankfully, the people from Golf Fights Cancer gave me an awesome opportunity to be able to run and raise some money for them. But it was a great distraction. My arm didn't work really like I wanted to, but my legs worked great. And so it was a cool thing. I was born in New England. I turned 40 in March. And so kind of a long birthday party celebration with, the best city in the world with, I don't know how many people were there, but it was a lot. So it was definitely a surreal experience.
I think you cut out there, Scott. But that's awesome, man. I mean, I'm super into fitness. It's a huge part of my life, and we've connected, we've worked out, we've played golf. Tell us, for the listeners that aren't familiar with your story, about like how we got from a PGA Tour player running the marathon, right? Like, that's not something that you're going to see Rory or JT or any of the guys do. But you're objectively maybe one of the fittest guys on tour. How did you get to that point from, normal PGA Tour player Scott Stallings in 2013?
Yeah, this is my 14th year on tour. I got my tour card in 2000, December 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, a lot's changed since then. Um,
Yeah, you
uh,
wouldn't even recognize the guy in the picture. If you Google Scott Stallings, you're like, who's the big guy?
yeah, definitely. It was a lot different. It was no one's fault of my other than my own, just sort of a lot of negligence. I thought if I made birdies, I could kind of do whatever I wanted. I mean, it wasn't even like, you know, drinking, partying, anything like that. It was just a lot, play golf all the time, sleep very little, and, travel too much probably, and all the different things that go along with it. And next thing you know, you're a mess. And, no, diet or training or, anything behind it. And then slowly but surely you look at yourself like, man, how did I get myself in this spot? And thankfully I had a lot of people come alongside me and help me understand what like health and wellness look like. And able to kind of be a cool opportunity to tell some stories along the way. I never really did it for golf. I did it for my life, for my wife and my kids, and all the things that kind of go along with that. Golf kind of felt like a second chance, and so I'm thankful for that opportunity. But I don't think it's possible for a active PGA Tour player to safely train for a marathon. I just don't think there's enough time um, to do. I mean, if you went up on the range and you went up there and started talking trash to a bunch of tour guys and be like, "Hey, I bet y'all can't do this," a bunch of guys would do it just because that's how they're built. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just different. I mean, they probably wouldn't do it fast, but they would finish. Like, I think a shocking number of guys would finish more than they wouldn't, just for the mental aspect of, hey, this guy told me I couldn't do this. I'm going to go out there and show him I can. And some guys would quit, or some guys just wouldn't be interested, or for whatever. But you really put it to a guy and say, hey, you can't do this. You would be shocked at the number of tour guys, especially people that play individual sports. Like, I think the number of people that do those kind of things would be surprising, the number of people that would finish.
Who do you think has the fastest marathon on tour, other than you, obviously?
I don't know. I found out I was the first active PGA Tour player to run the Boston Marathon. They told me that after. I
Probably
was
smart.
like, I'm sort of glad they told me that. I was like, man, I knew I was gonna finish, man. I didn't want it to end. My Garmin, I ran more than the marathon. Like, I ran upwards and backwards, and like I got to Boston, because the only last 2 miles are actually in the city, and I was like, crap, like that was fast. And like I would run up the right and down the left, and my Garmin was like all these like weaves in and out of here. But um I have no idea who the fastest, but it would probably be some like a person like built like Colin Morikawa. There's a bunch of those guys.
Yeah.
Um, I qualified in the Clydesdale division, which means you weigh over 200 pounds. Normally, that's like a compliment. Like, man, that guy's like a Clydesdale. But in running, it's sort of kind of like a dig, like you're a big
Yeah.
guy.
That would be
So,
what I would qualify in as well. I'm just a hair over 200 pounds, but that's also crazy that you say like after that marathon, you're like you didn't want it to end, which is
yeah.
just which is crazy. That's awesome, but like, could you have done it if it was another 4 miles?
Oh, for sure. I would have gone all day. Like, I would
Jesus.
have just
Sure
the
was.
fact of like the I called my wife at the halfway point because she was tracking um me kind of along the way. I ran a 150 half, which is like, I don't know, 815, 820 miles, which is fine. And I called her. I was like, hey, I'm going to slow down pretty significant, but because once you get past Wellesley, which is the halfway point, I mean, every town, it just progressively gets more and more and more and more aggressive, like in a great way. I mean, it's like a Super Bowl parade for 4 hours. And that's kind of the only way to describe it. And like, I didn't want to be the guy like looking at my watch, like, oh, I'm trying to hold a pace. It was like, oh, these kids are running through the sprinklers and giving out candy. I'm going to go run with them. And, you know, all the different. I got on a rower at one point. Like I was anything that there was to participate to do, I did. So it was a really really cool thing, and honestly, I didn't want it to end. But those last 2 miles, like I did 11-minute miles the last 2 miles, and honestly, I just went just fast enough to keep my legs moving without walking, just because I wanted to take it all in. Because you run right in front of Fenway Park, and you see like the best parts of the city, like all coming into one, and it was like, man, I took it all in for sure.
That's awesome. How does that like natural running high and that experience compare to a tour win?
It's totally different because like I actually know what I'm doing in golf. In running, I'm just like I have no idea. I
You
was
see it
telling
over
y'all
there,
before we
you're like,
yeah, I
snap.
was yeah, oh my gosh. So the guy that sort of helped me when I decided I was going to do this was like, "Hey man, you need to run some races before cuz like it's different." And I was like, "Oh man, it's just like show up and go, right?" I was like, "No, it's not like that." And so uh like when I got into it, I ran three halves and I did a 30K like big like hilly run, like a kind of it's supposed to be a trail run, and we ended up running on these up and down these hills in Tennessee. But like every time I made every mistake that you could make. Like I never had run where they had stuff to drink on a course,
Yeah.
and I thought it was like a requirement. So I'm like feeling good. And the very first half marathon I did, they had Gatorade and water. I was like, man, this is great. I'm just like killing it. I mean, like 10 miles in, I'm like, man, my stomach feels horrible. and
Oh,
and they were like, oh, it's just there if you need it. Because I saw all these people at other stop, and I'm like, oh, these people are doing it. I'm going to do it. And because any person that I thought looked like they knew what they were doing, I was like, I'm going to do what that guy's doing. And I joined a run club on Tuesday nights with some people. A guy owns a running store here, and every time we'd run, I would just be like, "All right, this is what I'm going to figure this out." And but in the world of golf, like I can kind of stay in my own lane. Like I know what I need to do to play and practice and be my best. But when it comes to something like that, I've never done. It's like, please help me. All right, that guy looks like he's doing good. I'm gonna do that, and all the different things like that. So that's kind of what I did for sure.
That's awesome. So now that you're kind of getting towards the end of your injury time frame, right? You said you can go full time back in the fall. I think you said when I saw you in January. How does
Yeah,
the
that's
go ahead?
kind of that's hopefully the goal. We'll see
Cool.
how that goes.
How's the training going to change? Obviously, you've been running, you've trained for the marathon. Like, what's the training look like now going into back to golf?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still running quite a bit. It's still the only part of my day I don't have to think about. Like even in practice, like I can't just go hit as many balls as I want. Like, I mean, my arm still gets pretty sore, and I do not want that elbow surgery again. I would do
oh.
my shoulder surgery every day before they touch my elbow again. So I'm trying to find the part of fatigue where, it doesn't hurt. It just gets sore, kind of like a muscle that hadn't been used in a while. Um, and it's my left arm. So that's the one that kind of takes all the brunt of hitting the ground. So start to, build back some explosiveness. My swing speed's very slow. But I've done a really good job, kept my range of motion, done really, really good with that. So, just like the hitting, man. Time and just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. I started being able to hang off a bar about a month ago. Still no real pull-ups, but just to be able to like get my arms over my head and kind of support my body weight, all the different things. But still in the gym too. Like I can't really go in there and just do what I want to do. I have to be very cognizant about how I move. Not trying to do too much too fast, and really put myself in a good position to you know not have do anything to re-injure myself. So the running component of, hey, I can make a workout on my watch, knock it out, and go. It doesn't involve a whole lot of thinking, so I've enjoyed that a lot.
This seems like a little weird of a question, but like when you are, essentially like working out, or you have those limits that you can do on your elbow, are you ever scared that you're gonna like re-injure it? Are you scared to like take that first step to like do that first pull up?
Yeah, I remember the first day I actually like put my arms over my head to like hang was
Did
it
you,
was
did you freeze
wild.
on you? Froze.
It was like I that freeze up.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
froze
just brace.
on us.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good now.
Yeah. So
Um,
are you
but
scared
the
to do
first
that?
day yeah, I did like a seated hang, and it was like just like letting I was like, and then my arms would go a little bit straighter, and then it was like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. So same thing, like doing a push up for the first time was bizarre. I kind of started off my knees, and then progressed to my toes, and everything is just sort of a reminder of like, man, this is sort of what this is going to be for the next little bit, and you follow on the process. Everything kind of has a time and a place, and not trying to do too much too fast, but for the most part, I haven't had any like real scary moments. Just more like mind over matter. But the first time hitting off grass was a little weird. The first time, like feeling the toe kind of turn over, and you know, I've kind of made a living out of the middle of the bag. Kind of that 150-yard range. From wedge to probably 7 iron, and seeing a couple of those clubs like go in and out of the turf was a little bit odd. Definitely make sure the ball's sitting up for the next few months. But seeing one like down into the grain, I haven't quite done that yet. So I would just, if I was playing, I would just move it, and just make sure I didn't, do anything to re-injure myself for sure.
So you mentioned, your strength before your injury was your, 150-yard shot. I was telling DJ before you jumped on the call that, we played together in Kiowa, 2021 ish,
Hmm.
and you kind of messed around, had a ho hum round, but ended up with the course record down there.
That's crazy.
I think I was too distracted because we were looking for your ball on every hole, so I didn't have a clue what I was doing.
True
Um,
story. We got to 17, and you were like, "Man, I've made a lot of birdies." I was like, "Yeah, you you did make a lot of birdies, Scott."
yeah.
That's pretty awesome though too, because it's like you almost in a way. I mean, maybe you did know what you were shooting. I mean, it's probably always in the back of your mind, but sometimes it's almost easier when you do, if that was the case, have that little bit of distraction where you can kind of not think about it as much.
Say that last part again. I was just making sure I had the full context of your question.
Yeah, just like when you are distracted, let's say with looking for Blair's ball the whole time. Obviously, you as someone that's playing on tour, like you know what you're shooting, you know what you're capable of. But at the same time, is it easier when you have like let's say that little bit of distraction where it takes your mind off it a little bit, or does it not really even matter?
No, I think there's a time and a place for everything. Like we had a great day. We worked out, we, chatted, had an opportunity to just sort of, see what each other were about and the different things like that. But, you know, those days are kind of unique in the fact of like, I think I did some chip in from nowhere where I probably should have made a bogey, and, you
Yeah,
know, we had never seen the course either. So we were just sort of like, I think this is kind of what we're supposed to do. And, how we did all that stuff. But on tour it's a little bit easier, to kind of lock in. I mean, that's it's kind of me versus me out there, and in that environment. But also I'd say it's the opposite sometimes. Like I could go out with some of my buddies and look incredibly average. Just sort of, hey, if I'm out there just enjoying the day, it just kind of depends. It's not always. That was definitely a unique scenario, and kind of, the world collided a little bit, and a couple putts went in, and that's sort of how that happened.
It's awesome. It's too good.
yeah, and we wanted to talk about like fatherhood, traveling, kids, like because you guys are on the road a lot on the tour, right? Like 30, 40 weeks a year. Some guys more. What's the hardest part, as a dad when you're traveling week in, week out on tour?
I think now as my kids have gotten older, I have a 12-year-old sixth grader and a 9-year-old third grader daughter. My son's sixth grade, and I think trying not to be two places at once golf kind of lends itself to the compartmentalization role. Like once they call your name, it's, you're either going to do it or you're not. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're not doing your caddy, your team, your family, anything, trying to be somewhere that you're not. And, I've not always been the best at that. Um, like I want to be on the lacrosse field with my son. I want to be, whatever it is my daughter decides to do on that day. She's like, she loves nothing but likes everything. She's kind of one of those. And I think that's just one of those, situations of, it kind of goes without saying, like, I want to be with my wife and my kids, but also like this is my job and this is something that I also love to do. And I think it's a balance. It's not a perfect scenario. But you know, if you imagine like the juggler doesn't look at the two in his hand, he looks at the one in the air. And I think that that's a perfect example. Like when you're with your family, you're with your family. When you're at your job, you're at your job. And it's, I'm not at my job when the ball's up in the air and I'm looking at my wife and my kids, and that obviously that ball that's in the air is going to hit the ground. And, I've had a lot of older guys really help me with that. I had a really good mentor right when I first got on tour, Kenny Perry. I mean, he definitely went over and above his way as a dad and sort of made it where like this is a priority to me. Like golf's given me the opportunity to do a lot of things in my family that I wouldn't have had a chance to do otherwise, but it's also not going to take away from what my family has a chance to do amongst ourselves. And I've kind of taken that to heart. It's been a unique scenario this past year because I've been home more than I've probably been in my entire career. So, I mean, I go to school, I pick up. I think my first when I got hurt in March, I think I signed up for something at my kid's school every day. I think I got signed up for kids' grades that I don't even have kids in those grades. And but I just think, just trying to be where you're at. Um, try to and be real mindful of those kind of things because I think it's real easy to sit there and sort of wander off in the wilderness. Next thing you look, it's like, man, I had a year at home with my wife and my kids, like, and all I did was wish it away that I was back on tour, back at this and that. And I, think I have done a really good job of that and understanding the opportunity that that time away kind of will make it sweeter to go back. I think it'll look a little different when I do. I don't think I'll necessarily be able to stack all those tournaments in a row like I used to. Just try to be, who knows, just kind of see how it feels once I really start hitting a ton of balls. But we'll kind of piece it together as we figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, even I can't imagine having that whole like tour schedule too, because even, Blair and I will travel randomly, whether it's for work, whether it's for golf, whatever it is. And, I mean, I miss my family like crazy when I'm gone. So to have it be stacked like you are and actually have, a lot of money on the line each week as well, puts a whole nother level of pressure on it. So good for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a learned science. There's not a book for this. There's no manual. It's kind of what works for me that may not work for someone else, and vice versa. I mean, if Sung J M ever has kids, I don't know. I don't know what he may never see his family.
Yeah, I'm always
Yeah,
like shocked by people like Sung Jae and Adam Scott. Like, and Adam lives like I think he has a home in Switzerland, may have a home in Florida. Like, I don't really know where he lives, but he it seems like he plays every freaking week. And I look at guys like that, and us being friends, I look at you, and I'm like, man, DJ and I travel a lot, and I got a few like instances of it this year where I went back to back to back weeks, and at one point I was like, man, I need to get home and be dad. And I can't imagine what it's like for the tour guys.
yeah. I think like you have a little bit of a distraction, Thursday through Sunday, but man, those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like a Tuesday evening soccer game or a lacrosse game or whatever it is, and you're sitting in your hotel or Airbnb and you're like, man, I know what's kind of the rest of my family's doing or this and that. And I think it makes you enjoy it. My family doesn't travel near as much as they used to. But I think, they do come out, it's, because you don't get it very often. And I think it's, those are special weeks for sure.
What are your, I guess, your family's favorite weeks on tour to come see you?
My son would tell you the players because that's what sent me home for a year. Um, and I think it's different. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. I think a lot of people's perspective of like I've had buddies come out for weeks on end and be like, "Man, how do you do this 30 weeks a year?" And you know, I we've Memorial's probably our favorite event. That's kind of always been special in Ohio. And then, we lived in Arizona for a long time. We lived 5 minutes from TPC. Even though that's a wild event, it just sort of reminds us of the time. Maybe not the most kid friendly event either, but it reminds us of the time we lived out there where it was just the four of us. We didn't really know anyone. We made some great friends while we were out there, but when we moved out there, we just did it for golf and an opportunity to kind of learn what our family needed and what we didn't need and what that looked like. So those are special events to us for sure.
Yeah. So why is the memorial so special? I mean, obviously the waste management is what it is. You live there for a little bit. Like we've been and worked out there together. You typically play well at TPC, but what's so special about the memorial?
I think just the event and what it is. Jack was great to me my rookie year. Um, had some great weeks there, and as the event in itself and the way that the course and the different things, the way that families are treated are pretty incredible, and definitely a step above. Every event's great, and they sort of there's a lot of great things you say, a lot of different things. And I'll also say that I'm gonna get an email or something from Bessie Udall, but Travelers is like all the different things they do for families throughout the week and different things like that is super special as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I asked ChatGPT about, Scott Stallings and give me so I use AI a lot because I'm busy and I'm like, hey, just like AI is going to do this for me. I asked it to spit me out a description. The number one thing it said was PGA Tour player. Second thing it said was health advocate and fitness guru. The Memorial's known for their milkshakes. Do you dive into the milkshakes of the Memorial?
Always at the end of the tournament because they're kind of like day enders, like especially when you don't have them very often. Like you always like if you're gonna go travel to the next event, you'll have one like on the way to the airport or something like that. But and then you're like you just need to have somewhere to sit for just a little bit. Like the guys that have them, I mean, I'm sure my rookie year I had two or three a day, but those days are over.
I have a question since we're talking about food a little bit. Number one, it's non-food related. Number two, it kind of will work into it depending upon your answer. But number one, do you prefer hotel or Airbnb when you travel?
Airbnb.
Is that because you can cook?
Mm, yes. I travel with a eight sleep, like a mattress cover for like temperature thing, and
Okay.
they're just way easier to deal with in an Airbnb than a hotel.
Okay.
And
Because
hotel, like room service, you see something attached to your bed, and the people come in, and it's like, what is this? So it's like a science project.
for sure, I'm a big at home cook and love eating healthy, attempting to eat healthy. So that's kind of like if I was on the road, I would prefer something like that. Airbnb just to be able to eat at home, eat healthier, not constantly getting takeout. Um, if do you eat? Do you cook when you're in the Airbnb quite a bit, or is it still
Yeah.
takeout?
A little bit of both. Um, I think the back end of COVID changed a lot of that. When we first went back, we were the first sport to go. And I think just sort of navigating that landscape of, we were in a bubble. That was the big key word. And I think people just, you got more opportunity to be, you had a couple buddies you travel with, you stay in a house and, two or three guys would cook, kind of changing it each and every night. And so I think that kind of carried over where guys enjoyed that a lot.
For sure. And if you're cooking, what's your favorite meal to cook?
I'm a steak guy, kind of always. San Diego has a meat market, um, and they have some skirt steak called Cardiff Crack, and that's always I've rented the same house for for a few years, and Cardiff Crack on Tuesdays always sticks out quite a bit.
Gotcha. That's no, that's too good. And then usually, are you when you're doing Airbnbs, are you having let's say caddies stay with you as well? Like, are you filling spot up, or is it like your own little pad for say the week?
I think every week is different. Um, I think just knowing, the situation, whether it's a real expensive week for a lot of guys or it's a cheaper week or my family's coming or, whatever. I mean, there's sort of a combination or a wide array of scenarios where who knows who could stay what. And I'm pretty open, pretty laid back, and I don't really get too caught up in whatever, just some, I don't love to sit there and just talk about golf over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this for a really long time, and I don't really want to talk necessarily about what I've done all day, let alone to what the other guys in my house have done all day. So, we've definitely had a few conversations with a couple guys that they just need to like get it off their chest of like, this is not the place to do that. Like, you need to check that at the door, and we're just going to be just normal dudes. They're just sort of hanging out, and that's what we're going to do. So, other than that, we're pretty low maintenance.
So when you're in those houses with those guys, what is it? Is it, you're talking SEC football and telling them how the Gamecocks are going to win the national championship this year? Like what's the conversation on tap usually?
Oh man, yeah, the Gamecocks don't come up very much unless Matt Neesmith's changed a couple times, stayed with me a couple times, and I'm actually he's playing Knoxville next week, so I'm gonna have dinner with him on Monday. I'll make sure that we talk about the national championship Gamecocks.
We're coming. We're coming.
I'm sure that'll come up a lot. Um, but man, it's sort of whatever. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. It's mostly nonsense. Where most of the guys I stay with all have families, and so it's whatever our wives or kids or whatever someone else is dealing with or trying to figure out, and it's very rarely about anything related to golf. And sort of you do something 8-10 hours a day. The last thing I want to do is go sit around a meal and talk about what I just did all day. If there's something that needs to be addressed or whatever, I'll try to deal that with the people that help me do that, and not necessarily, vent to the people that do the same thing I do for a living. So I just think that's sort of how I'm wired as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then when you're back at home, I'm gonna stay on this cooking trail because Blair needs to have some insight on this and get a little better in the kitchen too. But are you the cook or is your wife the cook?
She would definitely probably say that I was the cook. I'm definitely the griller. Anything
Okay.
outside. My wife and kids got me a uni for my birthday.
Yeah,
That it is very awesome, but it's definitely learned. You
for
got to
sure.
do some try, like you got to buy the cheap things and mess up a bunch and then figure out exactly how to like hone that thing in, especially when you're breaking it all the way in there. So just like anything, like right when I got a smoker, like I had to kind of learn, screw up a bunch, and no one becomes great at anything just automatically being good at it. They mess up a bunch.
Right.
So also having something that gets to 1,000 degrees is just in my mind is like kind of uncomfortable. It's
And it
like,
takes,
man, like I,
my
I
God.
need these all to
Yep.
like work. And so I think I have gloves that like I could go into like a nuclear reactor with and be okay. But like these gloves, like I can barely hold on to anything. They're so thick, but it's also like keeping me from burning my fingers off when I'm in there. So,
Yeah,
but that thing is pretty awesome.
we do the Oni all the time at home, and it's like, yeah, everyone come over for pizza night, and it's like you always think it's gonna be super fun and super like interact with everyone, and it's just kind of chaos, and no one can kind of eat together. It kind of turns into a hassle more than like fun, and then at the end you're like, okay, now this thing has to cool down before I can even put it away. So half the time I just like let it sit outside overnight because I mean, it's about you said it's 1,000 degrees. It's crazy.
So what is
I'm a
it?
big
Like I don't
smoker
even
guy
I've
as
never
well.
even heard of a uni.
Yeah, it's like a personal pizza oven, which like your kids are small, So like it would be perfect. But like
Yeah.
if the three of us were sitting around, it would be like, all right, cool. Blair's gonna eat, and then DJ's gonna eat, and then I'm gonna eat. But like we're all gonna kind of watch each other
Yeah.
because it's like, especially for dudes, like if you got a bunch of kids, it is awesome because you can just make a bunch of small ones and knock them out. But if you're thinking like you're gonna have like one yourself, like brother, it ain't happening. Like,
These pizzas cook, Blair, in like 90 seconds, like super super quick. But the problem is that it can only be so big, right? So like you said, it's fantastic for kids, but then like if you're having a guys' night, you better throw something on the smoker and do some meat instead of the whole pizza bits. But
I'm a meat guy anyways, but what it sounds like is we're available for sponsorship if Uni is listening, and the three of us should all just get upgraded on whatever the newest and best.
I have all like the cast iron like grates for potatoes, and like have you ever done a steak or anything in there? I mean,
no,
you can do anything.
Yeah, Maverick McNeely got me a beefer. Do you know what that
Okay.
is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had stayed with me a couple times, and um he's like, man, I just appreciate like you always doing the house and just organizing everything. Like I got something coming, and then next thing you know, I'm getting some like DHL from Europe, and I'm like, what the heck is this thing? And he got me, and that thing is sweet. Like, but it'll definitely, you want a hard sear, that is definitely the way to do it. Like a sous vide or like a super low, like just high grate. Man, we just turned into a cooking podcast pretty fast.
For sure. So I don't have
Like
one of those, but you're saying I got to get one.
Yes, you
All
should
right.
definitely tell your wife, be like, hey, this guy told me it came from Germany. It's real nice. But it
Perfect.
was like Mav got that for me a couple years ago, and man, it's pretty cool to see it work. But it's also something crazy that something that small can get that hot. And you just like I could literally burn my entire house down with this thing. And so just really tread lightly.
For sure.
I'm Googling beefers right now just for the name alone. Like it's amazing. It's an amazing
Yeah.
name. Like I want a beefer.
Right.
Yeah, if you go around saying that in the wrong circle, they'll definitely give you some odd looks. But any meat guys, like, it's pretty awesome. There's a couple other companies that come out with it, but it's pretty much like all the high end will use some variation of those infrared sear burners that get 1200 degrees, and same thing, like you sous vide a steak and you want a hard sear, man, it's done in 2 or 3 minutes, and you're pulling it out like, I mean, you need 90 seconds max in one of those things, and it's ready to roll.
There you go, Blair. That's your sign to get proficient in cooking now.
Well, dude, I did steaks last night, and my wife made a pasta. Like she does this like fettuccine pasta with prosciutto and no, it's a ham and beet and pea pasta. It was really good. But I was in charge of the steaks, and I'm getting good at steaks, and I can, getting better. I started kind of tinkering around with a reverse sear sort of situation. But like Scott said, meat stuff I'm pretty good with. And that could be taken off a different direction too. But like when it comes to cooking meat, I'm decent. But anything else, like when it comes to pasta or baking, like I'm out.
Yeah, we're trying to we have developed a baker. Our 9-year-old that's what she's taken upon herself. Um, probably to the detriment of me and my wife's own health, because every day she's like, I'm gonna make something, and it's normally really good. So
Is she
we're
on
trying to
the sourdough kick at all?
no, she that's the next thing for the uni. She wants to make, she's like, I want to make my own. I was like, and I said, I think you'd be really sad if you spent all this time making this like pizza dough and I just burnt the crap out of it. So let me just get a little more comfortable before you spend all the time to be able to make this pizza dough and I just absolutely ruin it.
So you're talking bacon, cookies, cupcakes, all the things you shouldn't be eating.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm moving to my charger. I just realized my iPad's about to die, so I'm gonna keep us from that. So follow with me as I walk.
No, you're good.
We get to see a tour of the gym via.
Right.
Is
that a house gym or what?
Yep.
Yeah, DJ doesn't know
that's in
anything about
that's in
your
my house.
gym situation, Scott.
Here, I'll turn it around. Y'all just get looking up my nose. Hold on. How do I do that? Oh, here it is. I'll turn it around. That's sort of it.
Yeah, that's sick. Was that in your garage
Yeah.
then?
No, it's I built a like a barn in my backyard.
Love that.
Yep. It's raining too, so I'm about to run into my house.
Yeah, it's raining here in North Carolina too. I was just talking with Matt O'Keefe about doing something with HWPO golf, and I was like, man, I should just come to Knoxville. We can go play Holston Hills when Scott gets better. Get some workouts in the garage in the barn. Just get it all dialed in. But that gym that he built, DJ, is like my goal. Like whenever when my crypto investments blew up, or I got a big podcast deal or Instagram deal, because I'm gonna have a barn like Scott's in my backyard.
All right, we converted the old fifth bedroom in the basement to a full on like workout room. So it's been nice to have, but you know, probably should use it a little bit more often than we do.
Yeah, so DJ, I know you're not huge into fitness or working out. Like you do a little bit, right? Just
Yeah.
maintenance.
I'm the yo-yo workouter, so like I hit my like if I hit 205, I'm like, ah shit, I got to get back into shape. And then I'll like work out, I'll go
195,
hard.
195, and you're like, I'm back. And then,
Yeah, 190, 195, I'm like, all right, we're good. I'm good for 2 months. And then I like jump back into it. Um Maybe because of the food situation. But you know what? A little bit of regularity in the gym. You know what? A little flexibility would help too. We need to not be so stiff on the course.
Yeah, Scott, when you get a second, I might send you a video of DJ swing. You're gonna see one of the stiffest, like slap shotty hockey swings you've ever seen in your life. But it works. I mean, he hits fairways, whatever.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to talk about fitness and health and stuff, because when we first met, Scott, you said something to me about getting like how you got into fitness. You went to a doctor. You got all your blood work done. I think you said that your doctor said you had a lower testosterone level than your wife. Come to find out, that same thing happened to me. I went and got my blood work done right before we had our third kid, and my testosterone level was like 295. And my doctor was like, dude, your wife probably has higher testosterone than you do. You got to fix something. So like, kind of give us the like condensed version of your story, so DJ can have some background and the listeners can too.
I mean, it was it was a mess, to be honest. Uh, just sort of basically, I was like the best way to describe it, especially to dudes, like, man, if the alternator in your car is about to go out, like that, like grind, like road trip, or like stop and go traffic, like in and out, like in a traffic jam. I mean, that's like the worst thing that could happen, and that's kind of how I lived. But if I needed to like get on the interstate and I jammed the gas, that thing is gonna work. Like that's when it was thriving. But as soon as you let off the gas and that car starts like that was like me. And there was a lot of habitual stuff. I mean, mostly related to sleep. I had obstructive sleep apnea. I didn't know. I broke my nose. I got hit in the face when I was a kid with a baseball, and I just never really got it fixed. Had a bunch of sinus infections.
Same.
A few allergies. Like seasonal stuff and this thing. But nothing like that was like daunting. But all these things sort of like manifested in the course of a person that travels. I spend more time on the road than I did at home. Like I didn't know what type of like health and wellness routine. I didn't really know anything, and sort of just threw my hands up and it was like, man, if I'm making birdies, all this stuff will take care of itself. And that's not really the plan for success. And so I started incrementally figuring out, find ways to kind of change habits and, make, one better decision and build off. But just like anybody, I mean, I was a high achiever, a guy that played on tour. I was like, well, I can do it all at once. And that's not a recipe for success either. And I think it's just a reminder of that, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you further down the road, and you can start to be able to ask them questions and start to build habits. And, next thing you know, one starts, leading to the next. And you realize, like, man, and when I do this, like, this is how much better I feel. And this is sort of what leads to what. And, I can come out and be a better version of what I was the day before.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger things that I've found since getting, my blood work done and figuring out the health side. Like, obviously physically you're going to be stronger and faster and all this stuff. And like my swing speed increased just fixing my testosterone and getting on TRT, which I don't think you can do as a professional athlete. I think we talked about it. Like you can't do that. You have to fix it naturally, or, sleep and all those things. But I've told every one of my friends, as soon as they hit 30, go get your blood work done and just see where you're at to get an idea. Like, hey, like, things are good, things are bad, figure it out. And so thank you for being the impetus for me to like say, hey, maybe something is wrong, because I'm kind of getting moody and I'm cranky and I can't lose weight. And so, yeah, so it's an interesting time for men who, don't know what's going on. Can't figure out why you're sleeping bad. Can't figure out anything.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is I just had so many. I mean, I just made so many excuses as far as like, I mean, then you start really going down the road of like, oh, well, maybe I can figure it out on my own. And, a few Google searches, the next thing you know, it's like, well, this is it. I'm dead. Like, I'm going to die. And,
I did the same thing. I Googled it. I was like, I'm dying.
death, immediate. So, and then I had turned myself into like my own character in house, like someone's like, I come in with cough and I've got like something not even related. So don't do that. There's a lot of great doctors out there. There's a lot of great, things to come out. And for the most part, everything's fixable and preventable, or, just by just, pretty simple, task-based thing. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not the easiest thing in the world. There's a lot of, ways to kind of circumvent, for faster results, but true lasting, stuff comes from habits, and, finding what the best version of that looks like for you, because it's a little bit different for everyone. And, I was thankful that I was able to, find some people to come alongside me and help me figure out what that looked like.
Yeah, I gotta create a new habit instead of this whole yo-yo thing, because it's even like when I get in those months where I'm like, I'm on it, I'm eating good, I'm working out a lot. It's insane how much better you do feel, and how much just you can think clear. You're just all around feeling better. So that's gonna be my little thing going forward. I'm just gonna stop the yo-yo and start good habits.
Yeah, there you go. I'm surprised y'all most of the time, every podcast I do, someone, especially when we start talking about health and wellness and habits, will ask me about my styrofoam cup. And it's like, I mean, that's definitely from a gas station. Um, y'all don't have Weigel's where you live, but Weigel's is big in Knoxville. But the styrofoam will save you in the sauna.
Okay.
Any person that's ever been in a sauna that has taken a Yeti and has peeled their lips off of the Yeti
But
will understand.
Yetis are hurt.
Will hurt you. Even like a shaker bottle, like a, just a simple shaker, you take it in there and leave it in there, 190, 195, even hotter than that, and you put your lips against it, and then next thing you know, you see the whole outline of the top layer of skin on there. It's like, I said, I got to figure something out. So one guy I was randomly with in the sauna, I was like, man, what do you? He said, man, I take crushed ice and styrofoam in the sauna, and I've done it ever since. So I was doing one health, it was like a round table and all these people are drinking like water and this and that, and I'm over there like true redneck. Like, so but that's what normally where it comes from.
Love that. So are you a true redneck? Do you like hunting and fishing?
No, I
No?
don't. I like shooting guns. I do not like hunting. I don't like fishing. I think I'd be good at bird hunting, just because, I mean, our job takes so much patience that it's the complete opposite of my personality. So I don't want to go, like, there's a lot of things I'd rather do than wake up at 4 in the morning and go like sit in the woods and be quiet.
Yeah. I understand that.
I'd rather go shoot like sporting clays, stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
that's very interesting. But like being slow and soft and like not making noise, like I'm out. Like I do that, with the best people in the world. I don't
For
really want
sure.
to. So I just realized why I don't do most of my podcasts in my house because my dog is trying to make an appearance. So if she is this, I remembered why I don't come up here when I'm on here because she is all over me right now. Sorry.
No, you're good.
All good, dude. Yeah, so I mean, we try to keep these right around an hour, so we can try to wrap it up and give you a break because your dog's trying to say hello. I wanted to talk. We talked about injury, we talked about everything, but you're going back to tour hopefully in the fall, and we can't wait to see you back. But what are you most looking forward to going back to, the PGA Tour and getting back to playing?
I think just, I don't think I've ever taken golf for granted. I'm thankful for my opportunity to play as long as I have on tour, and I'm proud of the things that I've done. Um, but I think that any time you get to a chance to play and compete against the best in anything, um, the marathon was a unique situation because everyone's like, "Oh, did you care about your time or your?" You know, it was the complete opposite of that. Like I didn't care about any of that, which was very refreshing in the fact of pretty much every part of my life is measured by something. Hey, this guy's club head speed is this guy's strokes gained is this, whatever. And the only thing I cared about was just not ending up in the ambulance or having some type of bathroom emergency. That was really, if neither one of those happened, that was a successful day. And so I think that was something I really look forward to getting back to. um I'm not a ultra competitive person, I would say, for the most part, but when it comes to being in that environment, it definitely brings it out. And the opportunity to go and compete against the best players in the world is obviously something that's very exciting.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing you back out on tour, and maybe me and DJ can go back out to one of your maiden events and follow
Absolutely.
along, bring the podcast on the road, say hello. The fall kind of settles down for us, so not as busy. But man, I can't thank you enough for your time. You've been so gracious, so generous, and over the years for me, just being a good friend. So appreciate everything. Appreciate you coming on here, and yeah, can't wait to see you again.
Yep. The fall you'll be busy with the Gamecocks, their championship run.
We're getting there. Shane
Yeah,
Beamer's our savior.
yeah, so like you can't really make a lot of plans. They're going to need you.
As long as I can
Like,
see it on TV on Saturdays, I'm good. I can go to one game a year and I get my fix. I am taking my kids to a Carolina game this year, which I'm super excited about, and they are super
North
excited
Carolina
about.
game, you're not going to watch Bill?
No, I'm South Carolina.
Okay.
Bill Belichick and Jordan, whatever her name is, have their own problems.
Yes.
I saw she got like banned from there, or was that a bit?
I saw a crazy. I guess it was news. I found out today. Her mom owns a sex toy store in Massachusetts, outside of Boston. And I was like, that checks out. That's the reason why Bill Belichick's involved.
Yeah.
I get it now. But no, to answer your question, I'm not going to a North Carolina game to support Bill Belichick. Shane Beamer in South Carolina. That's where we're going. That's where we'll be at.
Nice.
So,
well, I appreciate y'all having me. Go Balls.
Coming from the assistant coach of the Tennessee Volunteers golf team.
Very, very, very distant.
Well, dude, I thank you again for the time, and we'll catch you next time.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.